Hey, what's going on everyone? Welcome back to another video. Today I want to do a crash course video on some micro against Protoss. Specifically these kind of weird and quirky 5-minute, 4-minute, tank pushes like Cyclones and Marines and stuff like that, which if you've been watching any Pro SC2, it's kind of been like a huge thing to do as of late, as playing standard against Protoss is kind of cooked. Alright, so for this one, I'm just, I'm not saying do this or anything like that. I'm just trying to help out people who are thinking about doing it or who already do it, or just explain like how you want to be thinking about migrating these units when you do these kinds of pushes. I feel like it's nice to know at least how to do it so you can at least apply some of the things, right? Like I'm not expecting you guys to micro perfectly from here or with this little crash course, but the first thing we'll start with is basically positioning. So positioning is one of the easiest things that you can fix that will actually make a huge impact on your pushes. Okay. Oh man, hopefully this music's not too loud. So basically, when you're using siege tanks, it's all about leveraging the range of the siege tank, right? That sounds pretty obvious, but you want to match that with terrain. So for example, putting my siege tank here, this is a pretty tough spot to reach from this side without taking extensive damage, but it also covers some of my units here, right? So for example, I've effectively cut off all of this. If I need to retreat with these units, likewise, I have some defense from the supporting tank. And then if he rotates around this way, right, then I can keep my units here. Same deal. I can pull back this way, and then my siege tank suddenly in range again. This is really nice on some maps, obviously, compared to others. So for example, on this map, this is great. Oh wait, I'll show. Also, I should say that this game started with the engineering bay block. That's why his natural is in his third. So that's also what helps set up this kind of push. But obviously, you could also do this with any push, right? Any push you do in any part of the game, in any matchup, leveraging your siege tanks like this is amazing. It's phenomenal. It's great, and I highly recommend it. Okay, so positioning always going to be one of the first things you can do. That's easy to do. That makes a huge impact. Okay. And then with the rest of your army, just make sure, as a general rule of thumb, that you stay within range of your siege tanks and try not to, step too far forward or something like that. Okay. The next thing after that is going to be target firing. Okay. Prioritizing certain units over others. Should you be microing your Marines or your siege tank or your Cyclones? Okay. Tanks are always going to be a priority here because they're effectively doing the most damage. So whenever you have an opportunity to target fire with your siege tanks, I highly recommend emphasizing that. Okay. Marines are pretty much going to be the last unit you micro in these scenarios, as they're really not that impactful. Okay. They do damage on their own. You're not really kiting stalkers and Marines at this point, right? And your heavy hitter units are going to be most important. So like the siege tank, the Cyclones, even like a Liberator or Banshees, if you have those are going to be more important and have a higher emphasis than the Marines. Okay. So Marines will always be bottom tier here. So pretty much with the units that I have here, the two groups of units I'm most focused on are my siege tanks and my Cyclones. And this is where, you want to abuse the lock on. And here you can see, okay, it pushes me. And you can actually see that I've clicked on my siege tank because, like I said earlier, siege tank takes priority here. The siege tank is a unit I want to target fire. This guy has all his units bunched up. Perfect opportunity. I'm hitting center mass right here, which is his most damaged stalker. Okay. So you can see the A click there. And that's what I'm blasting. He micros it away. Good for him. Then here I shift priority to the sentries. And obviously I know these are hallucinations, but that's how you want to micro. Okay. Now here I'm going to keep pushing. Notice I'm using the Cyclones to bait and do damage, but I'm consistently staying within my tank range. Here I micro. Here I pull back. Sorry. So he goes all in. I pull back, and you can see that I'm not microing two groups of units at the same time. As soon as he comes within range of my siege tank, my priority shifts to my siege tank. And at this point here, and this is the part where it takes practice to kind of judge each scenario, you want to choose which unit to prioritize. What unit should how do I say this? Like, where are you gonna get the most value from? Focus firing your siege tank. In this case, all the probes are bunching up. I'm going to go for the probes, okay? And you can see that with my siege tank, and I actually hit a stalker here, but then I shift priority back to the probes. Bam. 17 probes go down. Okay. The siege tank finally dies, but if we rewind here, we actually killed a lot of stuff in the end, just from having this pretty abusive spot. Now, of course, if he has blink and stuff like that, or maybe he rotates around this way, you could get the tank. So that kind of stuff can happen, and that's where you have to sort of like be able to pick up on if Protoss is shifting units to the other side or something like that. But if you look, I mean, I got like 10 kills on the siege tank, which is very good, and most of them are workers, so that's great. And obviously some of these units are low on health. Now I'm going to go ahead and regroup and then do another push, which it's going to have the Banshees and the siege tank now. So here I push in, same thing. I put my siege tank in the same exact spot because this is an amazing spot, and it's going to be way better than putting it like here. Now I have another siege tank coming in. I'm locking on here. Why do I siege my siege tank here? Well, first, let's talk about a cool little trick that you can do. When Protoss see an unsieged tank like this, the first instinct is to jump on it and kill it. Okay, because it's in the process of sieging, or maybe it hasn't sieged yet, but it's going to siege. Okay. You can bait Protoss pretty hard into this first tank's range and your units if you purposefully don't siege it and keep it within range of the medevac. This is something that Clem does a lot, where you can pretty much bait them to coming in, and then you just pick up the siege tank, and then they have to blink out right away, but they take a bunch of damage in the process and don't get a siege tank. Versus, they take a bunch of damage, lose a stalker or two, but kill the siege tank, okay? So, that's a cool trick that I recommend doing. Sorry, I can't talk today. I don't know what's wrong. But, if you're just sieging the tank because you're doing the push, right, and maybe stalkers aren't in range or whatever it is, you always want to siege the siege tanks pretty close to each other like this, okay? You want them to cover each other and have one maybe be slightly ahead of the other in this instance to help you push forward. Okay, so that's why this siege tank is now here. But again, notice like, I don't have it too far forward. I don't have it like over here. I don't have it back here where it's not going to hit anything, right? I want to make sure that these two tanks can hit at the same time, which right now they are, right? These two siege tanks are absolutely blasting, and he lost a lot of stalkers to do that, and that wouldn't have been possible if my siege tank wasn't within range of the other siege tank. Okay, now here he lost a lot of stalkers, so I'm feeling more bold, and I'm shifting my micro priority now to my cyclones. Okay, I have more units coming in. I'm getting some repairs done. I realize here that I need to be more aggressive because I caught a lot of stalkers and I'm getting momentum. So now you see me move up my siege tank. Okay, save my cyclone again. Bam, shift my priority back to my tank. I'm clicking down probes. At this point, you can obviously tell I'm winning the fight, but like I said, my main priority is consistently my siege tanks, my cyclones, or my banshees, and I'm hardly ever actually microing my marines. At the most, I'm just keeping them within siege tank range. Okay, and as soon as any unit comes into siege tank range, everything shifts to siege tank priority. Okay. And yeah, obviously I just went here, but that's pretty much it. It's not as hard as it seems. Okay, like there's other things that are way more complex. I think splitting and target firing with marines is way more difficult than this. But this will make a huge difference in how these pushes go for you if it's something that you do consistently. So if you guys enjoyed this quick crash course on micro and with these pushes, I guess it's not really that quick because it's like 9 minutes long. But if you have any questions, feel free to let me know. Otherwise, hope you guys find this helpful, and I'll catch you guys later.